Chloe Adams, how much longer can this go on? Please go to the clinic. The secretary, Nancy, looked concerned. I've already made an appointment for you. Sam will drive you. I can get there myself. Chloe brushed her off. Oh, sure. With that dizziness and nearly fainting. Nancy shook her head. Dear friends, I want to get to know those who are listening to me right now better. Please write which city or state you are from. It is very important and interesting for me to learn more about my audience. Enjoy the story. No, don't even try to resist. You collapsed half an hour ago. Those could be symptoms of a brain tumor. Nancy, don't escalate things. Chloe stopped her. You know I'm as impressionable as a Pavlovian dog, and I hate listening to your favorite horror stories. She obediently got into the summoned car. Nancy always had life stories that would make one shiver. The young woman came from a rural area and had a large extended family, ranging from the eccentric to the troubled. Nancy was proud of having made a life for herself and was absolutely loyal to Chloe's company. But right now, Chloe simply didn't have the strength to listen to those stories. She didn't want to hurt Nancy's feelings, but she decided it was time to set boundaries. The young woman rode toward a private clinic with heavy thoughts. On the outside, her life was perfect. A happy marriage, a large business. After her father's death, she had to take over property management. That had been his life's work. She, however, had dreamed of being a veterinarian since childhood. She used to read books about animals, visit shelters, and even convinced her dad to let her enroll in a veterinary academy. But her long-awaited diploma had to be tucked away on a high shelf. Her father passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. First, a wave of grief hit her, and then the leaden weight of responsibility. Hundreds of people worked for her father's company. She couldn't let them down, so she took the business onto her fragile shoulders. Her husband, Victor, on the other hand, thrived in it. He easily fit into the world of big business. He traded his hard hat and foreman's overalls for expensive suits with pleasure. Chloe had met him years ago at one of her father's construction sites. The young foreman had caught the heiress when she tripped, becoming a hero in her eyes and in the eyes of his future father-in-law. Immersed in her studies, Chloe took his courtship for granted. She was a beauty from a wealthy family, and the veterinary department wasn't exactly overflowing with suitors. In short, Victor became the first and only candidate for her heart. Chloe didn't fall in love instantly, but she was confident in her choice, especially now that her husband helped so much with the business. That morning, Victor had gone to another negotiation. Their company built industrial and warehouse facilities and leased them out. This brought in a lot of money, but during the crisis, finding clients became a problem. Victor spoke their language. He skillfully played the role of a regular guy. The older businessmen didn't take Chloe seriously at all. After a couple of her own failures, she appointed Victor as vice president and entrusted him with all negotiations. Chloe herself would have preferred to sell her father's business and open a small veterinary clinic with an animal shelter, but her husband convinced her it was a foolish idea. So now she did work she disliked, gritting her teeth with boredom during meetings. Nevertheless, she fulfilled her father's will conscientiously. Profits grew. Contrary to competitors' expectations, the business did not fail. The main thing that saddened her was the lack of children. Chloe had been struggling with this problem for a long time, taking prescribed medications, tracking cycles, and trying to please her husband. But pregnancy never occurred, even though both were healthy. She blamed it all on stress, and her poor health on exhaustion. She was driven to the hospital by Sam, technically her husband's driver. Well, he was officially employed by the whole company, but Victor was the one who usually rode with this guy who instinctively rubbed Chloe the wrong way. They acted more like buddies than employer and employee. Sam clearly didn't intend to observe any professional boundaries with the owner of the company either. "We're here," he commanded. "Thank you. Could you open the door for me?" Chloe asked. "What, don't you have hands?" "Look, I still need to get gas and then take the chief accountant to the tax office," Sam grumbled. Chloe struggled out of the car. Fortunately, the coolness of the reception area made her feel a bit better. The attending physician, the lovely Dr. Catherine Miller, who had seen Chloe for many years, took her to the lab personally. She had to give blood and undergo several other tests. Half an hour later, Chloe sat in the hallway behind a large palm tree, trying to recover. They promised the results within an hour. The clinic was famous for its speed and individual approach to patients. Chloe was gloomily chewing on a chocolate bar she bought at the hospital kiosk when she suddenly heard something strange. One of the voices sounded familiar. She peeked out from behind the palm tree and froze in shock. Walking confidently down the hallway was the clinic's chief physician, Dr. Frederick Hill. Walking beside him was Victor. He was wearing the same suit he had worn to his morning business meeting, and in his hands, he held a magnificent bouquet of blood-red roses, the scent of which made Chloe's head spin. "I'm telling you, you can't have live flowers. It's the rules," the chief doctor said. "Only artificial ones, according to sanitation standards." "Are you crazy? I'm not at a cemetery," Victor complained. "Leave the bouquet and go in." The doctor opened the door to one of the rooms. Chloe knew that there was a specialized ward on this floor besides the lab, but she couldn't remember exactly what it was for. "Congratulations on the heir," Dr. Hill said in a different tone behind the door. Chloe froze, afraid to even breathe. Were her test results ready? Had her long-awaited pregnancy finally happened? She was about to push the door open when she heard the rest of the conversation. "A real bruiser, a healthy, strong boy," the doctor said cheerfully. "And the mother handled the delivery perfectly. Here, Dad, hold your son and go congratulate the new mother." "Honey," a female voice sang out, "you're a daddy now. Well, aren't you going to kiss your bunny?" The world went dark for Chloe. She barely managed to duck back behind the palm tree and leaned against the planter, breathing heavily. That voice with the hysterical notes was very familiar. It was Diana Perkins, her husband's secretary, who had recently lost her slim waist and supposedly moved back to her family's farm in Texas a month ago. Diana was also a girl from a rural town, but clearly much more ambitious than the hardworking Nancy. Chloe didn't start a scene. She simply left the clinic, sat on a bench in a nearby park, and cried her heart out. Then, her father's words echoed in her ears. "Only enter a fight with an enemy when you hold all the aces." That was his favorite saying, his life's creed. Chloe realized that such bold behavior from the pair couldn't have appeared out of nowhere. They surely had a plan to legitimize the child. Victor was beaming with the realization of his fatherhood, which meant Chloe was clearly an obstacle in his equation. At that moment, her phone rang. She had to answer, trying to steady the shaking in her voice. "Hello. This is Dr. Catherine Miller," the doctor chirped happily. "Congratulations to the future mother. It's very early, which explains your dizziness. Try not to overexert yourself. Come see me for an exam in 2 weeks. We'll get you registered and start you on some vitamins." "All right," Chloe replied, staring at a puddle beneath her feet. "I'll be there." She hung up and gave a bitter laugh. Only this morning, finding out she was pregnant would have made her the happiest woman in the world. But now she had no idea what to do next. Should she tell her cheating husband or stay silent? Would he even be happy about a child from a wife he seemingly despised? After half an hour, she finally stood up from the bench and wandered out of the park. She called the office to let them know she was heading home. She didn't call Victor. He showed up late that evening, smelling of alcohol and carrying that same bouquet of flowers that the nurses hadn't allowed into his mistress's hospital room. Of course, her husband presented it differently. "Honey, I closed such a lucrative contract today," he beamed. "It might not even be a one-time deal, but a long-term one. Can you imagine? I'm happy for you," Chloe whispered from under the covers. "I'm sorry, I feel terrible. I even had to leave work early. I'm afraid I'll be stuck in bed all day tomorrow, too." "That's okay, health comes first," her husband said. "As usual, I'll take over the management." "Good," Chloe nodded. "I might have to go back for more tests at our favorite clinic." At those words, Victor's eye twitched suspiciously. Chloe, smiling to herself, turned toward the wall. Let him sweat, fearing he might run into his wife right outside his mistress's room. The next morning, she was woken up by strange smells. It was a mix of burnt coffee and fried onions, something she couldn't stand. Struggling to open her eyes and touching her perfectly flat stomach, Chloe went to the kitchen. Her mother-in-law was already there, making herself at home. Chloe winced. The last thing she needed was the presence of this overbearing woman. Victor's mother, Martha, was no simpleton, though she constantly emphasized her working-class roots. And it seemed that even the flowers within a few yards would wilt from Martha's nonstop chatter. "My, what a bouquet you have here," she admired, efficiently plucking a rose from the vase. "I'm going to Mrs. Harrison's anniversary party today. I thought, why spend extra money on a bouquet? You won't miss one, will you?" "Yes, of course. Take them all if you want," Chloe smiled, once again amazed by her mother-in-law's audacity. "Oh, I'm so lucky to have such a daughter-in-law," Martha chuckled. "You're so generous. It always amazes me. Anyway, how are you feeling? Victor said you weren't well yesterday. I'm going to make you the best medicine for any ailment. My signature beef shank borscht. I've already got the onions sautéing and the broth is simmering. A couple of hours and it'll be ready." "Thank you, but I don't really want any soup." Chloe turned pale. "Forgive me. I think I just ate something that wasn't fresh on my way to work yesterday. I didn't want to throw it away, out of habit. So now it's bed rest and light food for me. Just some toast." "Well, no one has ever gotten sick from my cooking," the guest stated officiously. "Don't you start with those hints. Eat properly and you'll get your strength back. I'm gonna run out for some pork trotters and make some head cheese, too." "Please, don't," Chloe pleaded. "Oh, look how sensitive we are." The mother-in-law smirked. "Fine, we'll stick to the soup. If you won't eat it, my son will." "I appreciate that," Chloe nodded, making herself tea with lemon. "Speaking of Victor," his mother sighed heavily, "my son doesn't even see the light of day anymore. He's slaving away for the sake of this business of yours. And what's the return? What does he get for it? Legally, everything belongs to you, and for a family, that's just wrong. Listen to me. I'm just a simple woman who has lived a long life." "Well, Victor actually receives a very good salary," Chloe reminded her. "And I don't interfere with his spending." "Well, of course, it's none of my business." The mother-in-law adopted a look of pure innocence again. But in a normal family, a wife would have signed over a share of the business to her husband long ago. It would be fair, by the way. Victor is working himself to the bone, traveling to meet partners, negotiating. What would happen to your business without him? It would have gone under a long time ago. "I'll think about it," Chloe said shortly and went to her bedroom with her tea. The conversation left her feeling disgusted, and even the tea began to taste bitter. Meanwhile, her mother-in-law continued to rant in the kitchen about the universal injustice toward her son. Chloe lasted exactly 2 hours before she got dressed and drove to the office. Sitting in her chair, she realized that her mother-in-law's approach wasn't accidental. It was as if she knew about the birth of the secret grandson, and Chloe needed to verify this. She decided to use Nancy's talkative nature to her advantage, especially since the secretary was already hovering with concern. Chloe invited her into the office with 2 cups of tea and strawberry jam. She had loved this treat since childhood, buying it from a neighbor at their old summer cottage for years. "Nancy, do you know where Diana went? I haven't seen her in a while," Chloe started casually. "Oh, I'll tell you a secret," the secretary whispered. "Diana has ballooned in the last few months. They said it was some kind of hormonal imbalance. Personally, I think she went away to get treated quietly. I mean, imagine how it feels for a young, beautiful woman to swell up to that size. How did she get hired here anyway?" Chloe continued to probe. "I was looking to give out bonuses, but I don't see much info on her in the records." "We're actually from the same small town," Nancy explained reluctantly. "Except Diana's relatives are all snobs. They call themselves ranchers, but their whole wealth is just a dozen pigs. They didn't want to let Diana move to the city, and she was such a beauty. Well, she was before that hormonal thing. Anyway, I helped her. I suggested some secretarial courses and then recommended her here. Don't think twice. She's a good girl, hardworking. I wouldn't have brought her in if she wasn't." "I see. Well, if anything, I'll pass her bonus through you, Chloe smiled. I'm going to visit the sites now. My dad always said, you have to keep your finger on the pulse. Be careful out there, Nancy advised, or you'll faint again. I will. Chloe nodded and began feverishly searching the desk drawer that she still habitually thought of as her father's. Soon, she found what she was looking for. Chloe knew her father didn't have his own security team, but for years he had used the services of a specific private investigator. That man handled all pre-employment background checks. Her father had always spoken very highly of him. Taking a breath, Chloe dialed the number from the business card, praying the man was still in business. Soon, a tired male voice answered. Private investigations. How can I help you? Mr. Harrison, this is the daughter of Arthur Adams. I have a job for you, she began. All right. Should I come to the office? His voice sounded calm and steady. No, I'd prefer to meet at your place, Chloe requested. The matter is confidential and very important. Fine. Take down the address, but don't be surprised by what you see, the investigator replied. Chloe entered the coordinates into her GPS. It pointed to a vacant lot on the outskirts of the city, but she remembered his warning and drove to the indicated spot. When she arrived, it was indeed a wasteland, except for something resembling a mobile home on wheels and one sedan parked nearby. Chloe smirked. She was already starting to like the investigator for his unconventional lifestyle. A tall, tired-looking man in his 40s, maybe a bit older, stepped out of the mobile home. You got here fast. Come in, this is my office. A client paid me with this plot of land, and I've always dreamed of a free life. Interesting, Chloe smiled. But I'm afraid my assignment won't be quite as creative. I'm listening closely, the investigator smiled. By the way, I'm Ethan. You can call me by my first name, Chloe. Chloe introduced herself properly and laid out the essence of the case. So, I understand correctly. You already have the facts, but you need confirming evidence, the detective clarified after listening to her. Yes, exactly, she nodded. I want to be prepared for the final battle, and I want to understand the true goal of my relatives, my husband and my mother-in-law. Obviously, they want the company, but how exactly did they plan to get it? The simplest way is through inheritance, Ethan replied shortly. Of course, for you, that's the worst-case scenario, but it's a real one. So, here is my advice. Do not drink or eat anything served by your husband or mother-in-law, and install cameras, at least in the kitchen. I'll tell you which ones to get and where to put them so they won't be noticed. It's better to prevent a disaster than to deal with one. Understood. If needed, I'm ready to pay top dollar, Chloe remarked. My dad trusted you completely, and he always said the best specialists are expensive. I just have no one else to turn to. That happens, Ethan nodded. And your situation isn't easy. Your mother passed away during childbirth. It turns out you're essentially alone against everyone. I give you my word that I'll stay on your side. And it's not about the money. Arthur Adams supported me a great deal when I was first starting this agency. So it was my dad who paid you with that plot of land, Chloe guessed. You know, sometimes I felt like he read people like an open book. He did, but he couldn't see through his own son-in-law, Ethan sighed. We'll stay in touch. Don't write down my number and don't save it in your phone. Better yet, get a burner phone and call me from that. All right? Chloe nodded. She drove away from the detective in a completely different mood. Not a trace of her former shyness remained. This serious man, a former undercover officer, spoke to her as an equal, not like a clueless child. She had grown unaccustomed to such treatment and was deeply grateful for it. Right now, Chloe felt like the true daughter of Arthur Adams, a man who hadn't earned his reputation in the world of big business by accident. She went to inspect the construction sites, even though she had previously delegated that task to Victor. She had been timid, afraid of looking unprofessional. But today was different. At the very first site, when the foreman tried to block the owner from entering, she simply fired him on the spot. She appointed the worker who seemed most loyal as the new lead. The fired foreman sputtered in shock, but it worked. Thanks to the grapevine, Chloe was greeted with proper respect at the second sight. That evening at home, Victor tried to mock her. So, what kind of inspection was that? You fired Dennis. He's still in shock. He's been blowing up my phone. Since when do you do that? Am I obligated to report to someone? Chloe blinked naively, playing the dumb blonde for all she was worth. I thought it was a given. No? The owner of the company has the right not only to hire employees but to fire them, especially those who don't follow orders. Or what is this? Are you encouraging a mutiny on the corporate ship? No, honey, of course not, her husband said, hugging her. Chloe caught a faint whiff of someone else's perfume. Sweet like poison. Well, that's it then. Your Dennis could have changed everything if he had just admitted he was wrong on the spot. Chloe shook her head. They've grown undisciplined without my father. It's unpleasant to watch. Have you even seen what's happening at our sites? Stop it, my little princess. Her husband pulled her closer. You had your little fight and that's enough. Don't scare the men too often, or they'll all run away. I'll try, Chloe smiled. Now, excuse me. I want to wash off all this construction dust I've gathered today. Are you going to inspect the rental properties tomorrow? Her husband joked, but there was tension in his voice. I don't know. I'm so unpredictable now, Chloe smiled broadly. You know, I decided I've spent too much time sitting in the office. That's probably why I've been feeling unwell. I need to be closer to the people. Just don't overwork yourself. Her husband forced a smile. I worry about you. You know, dealing with all those rough men isn't good for a woman. Chloe went to the bathroom, replaying the long day in her head. The foreman had told her to her face that he answered to the real owner, not a girl with a manicure. Who exactly did he mean? Was it Victor, who over the last year had seemingly become the face of the firm, pushing her into the background? The next morning in her office, she began calling tenants, realizing herself how much she had let things slide. She received further confirmation. Almost all the tenants took her for Victor's secretary and were shocked to learn that a woman was actually running the firm. Throughout the week, Chloe quietly took steps to bring her father's empire back under her control. But she soon realized that some situations were too much for her to handle alone. Meanwhile, the detective was conducting his investigation, and he requested a face-to-face meeting to deliver the results. Your husband's mistress is your mother-in-law's goddaughter, the investigator informed his stunned client. By the way, did you notice they're from the same county? No, I didn't even know where my mother-in-law was originally from. Chloe turned pale. So, she wasn't here by accident. Yes, I talked to the locals there. Ethan nodded. Everyone is gossiping about how successfully the godmother set Diana up with a wealthy lover who, if necessary, will now pay child support until the kid is 18. Honestly, they aren't even taking you into account. Great, Chloe grumbled. And where am I in their version of events? On my deathbed. No, they just think the lover is single and very rich. Ethan smirked. They were also bragging about how they got Diana the job through some friend who works as a secretary. Yes, wonderful. Anything else? Chloe sighed, her anger making it hard to breathe. I found out where your husband's mistress lives. Here are the photos and statements from neighbors. The investigator handed her a folder. The apartment is rented in Victor's name, paid 2 years in advance. The owners live abroad. By the way, the happy father isn't the only one visiting. Your mother-in-law is also showering her goddaughter with attention, walking with the grandson, bringing him gifts. She spent a couple of hours today picking out a baby jumpsuit at a boutique. Understood. Continue the surveillance, Chloe requested. I will. No, now, while your husband is at his mistress's place, I suggest we go and install the cameras, Ethan said firmly. There's no time to relax. They could act at any moment. Took about an hour. The detective set up the camera feed to his laptop, then left, asking her to be careful. Chloe promised to stay alert, but that same evening, she accepted her husband's offer to have tea together. Victor brewed it. He was the self-appointed tea specialist in their house. But just as she took the cup in her hands, her phone rang. Do not drink? Ethan's voice said directly into her ear. He put something in it. The drops are hidden in the cabinet under the sink. Bring them for analysis tomorrow. Today, just act sleepy or simulate whatever you need to. Fine. Regarding the lease, you can contact our office during the day, Chloe answered coldly, then explained to her confused husband, clients are going crazy. You should stop giving out your personal number to just anyone, Victor stated. She nodded, walked to the window with her back to her husband, and carefully poured the tea into a pot with a ficus plant. It had been half dead for a long time. She had meant to throw it out but hadn't gotten around to it. Now, she was grateful for her own procrastination. That plant might have just saved her from something much worse. In the morning, after seeing her husband off to work, she found the vial of drops. A quick search revealed it was a potent medication for treating severe conditions, with a host of side effects and a cumulative effect that could lead to a fatal outcome. Chloe smirked. No one was planning to spare her. That same day, she invited the firm's head lawyer, who happened to be a close friend of her late father, to lunch at a restaurant. Robert Anderson accepted her proposal without hesitation. Chloe trusted this man, so she immediately showed him the folder of evidence, the video of the medication being added to the tea, and the photo of the vial. Do you want me to keep this? Robert asked. Yes, as insurance in case of my death, Chloe said solemnly. And I also need to transfer my assets to other individuals, people who can actually be trusted. I think that's exactly what my father would have done. I'll select some candidates, Robert nodded. Temporary management or full transfer of rights. Whatever works best, Chloe stated. I want to create the illusion that we are in a deep crisis and have to sell off assets. Victor doesn't understand financial matters very well. He mostly just pretends to. But his mother worked as an accountant for 30 years, so I suspect she's the one pulling the strings. That makes sense, Robert agreed. Chloe, have you thought about writing a will? One that would satisfy your relatives, and then leaving it somewhere they can easily find it. You're a genius, she smiled. By the way, can we make it so that my signatures on documents mean nothing from a certain point forward? Yes, just appoint a person who will have the actual signing authority, he nodded. And you will step into the shadows yourself. I can handle that for you if you'd like to avoid public attention. Please do. The more people who know, the higher the risk of a leak. You are a worthy successor to Arthur, Robert chuckled. You're thinking fast on your feet. Well, I'm in. I won't back down halfway. They discussed the plans for a long time, said a warm goodbye, and began acting the very next day. Chloe watched as the rights to the assets were transferred to others, but she wasn't afraid. For the first time, the young woman was gripped by the same excitement that had once made her father a successful businessman. Having finished the main business, Chloe moved to the next stage of her plan. Her pregnancy was progressing well, without even any morning sickness, but she told everyone she was going on medical leave due to poor health. She holed up at home and gratefully accepted tea and broth from the hands of her husband and mother-in-law. They were no longer shy. They simply left the thermos by her bed. Chloe carefully simulated weakness, dizziness, memory lapses, and even short fainting spells. She saw the euphoria her husband was in. Victor was literally rubbing his hands together, practically crossing off the days on the calendar until he became a wealthy widower. He even stopped staying the night at home most of the time. He told Chloe he was stuck at the construction sites. She skillfully mimicked frailty and gullibility, acting semi-delirious whenever people were around. She simply didn't want to talk to her poisoners. She was afraid a wrong word or look would betray her true feelings. Still, she kept her finger on the pulse, calling her lawyer and detective daily. The old, dried-up ficus plant, watered with the poison tea, suddenly flourished and sprouted new leaves. Chloe didn't risk watering it with the broth. She just flushed that concoction down the toilet. One morning, Martha came to the house early. As usual, she handed her daughter-in-law a cup of broth. Chloe quickly poured the contents into a container she kept under the bed for such occasions and lay back to play the part of a delirious patient. But this time, her mother-in-law surprised her. "Chloe, dear, do you have the strength to hold a pen?" Martha asked. I have some papers here. Will you sign them? It's a petition for animal rights. Some group in the neighborhood wants to start catching stray dogs, and they're threatening to poison them if we don't stop it. Of course, I'll sign. Chloe smiled weakly. I'd even take one of those dogs myself. Oh, where would you put it? You can't even stand up. The mother-in-law shook her head. What a long flu you've got. But don't worry, everything will be fine. Just keep drinking my broth and take the medicine the doctor left. Now sign here, and I'll be on my way. An hour later, the detective recounted a phone conversation he'd intercepted. Martha was reporting to someone that the idiot signed everything, and they now had a power of attorney to manage all the firm's affairs. Hearing this, Chloe laughed so genuinely she couldn't stop for a long time. What's so funny? The detective asked. Well, I don't have signing authority anymore, she explained. So that piece of paper is only good for wiping your nose. But let her be happy for now. I won't ruin their victory just yet. Naturally, the mother-in-law took the power of attorney to a shady notary she knew, who notarized it for a generous fee. An hour later, Martha was handing the papers to her son in the apartment rented for his mistress. That's it. Now we can just send her to a psych ward in her delirious state. Victor rubbed his hands. To be safe, we'll wait another 2 weeks until her condition is at its worst. Then no one will have any doubts. By the way, did you get the doctor's note about her flu? Of course, everything is ready. Martha looked at her son with pride. Soon, we will be the full owners of this business. I will be, Victor corrected her sharply. Don't forget who's running the show. She wrinkled her nose in annoyance but stayed silent. She had her own opinion on that. Martha knew perfectly well that her son was a shallow, lazy, and greedy man who was worthless in business. But she decided not to disappoint him just yet. A couple of days later, while her husband was away on another fake business trip, the detective called Chloe again to report that the mother-in-law was out walking with the grandson, while Victor had taken his mistress to visit her relatives in the countryside in Virginia. Ethan suggested a secret meeting, emphasizing that he had major news. I messed with the lights a little bit in that mistress's apartment, he smiled, sitting in Chloe's kitchen and laying out some takeout food he'd brought. Why? She asked, happily eating a salad. Well, for a DNA paternity test, Ethan smirked. I suspected from the start that something was off. Think about it. You couldn't get pregnant from your husband for years, yet the mistress conceived almost immediately. I went into the apartment posing as an electrician and swiped the baby's pacifier with his saliva. Getting a sample from your husband was easy. And the result? Chloe asked, sensing where he was going. Paternity is excluded. The child is not Victor's, Ethan said. Do we keep digging? Or is this enough? Are you kidding? Of course we keep digging. Chloe stuffed her mouth with pizza. Well, I already did. The detective winked. How do you even survive here without real food? Deliveries help, and for an extra tip, the couriers take out the trash. Chloe smiled. Otherwise, I'd have kicked the bucket by now. Listen to this. Ethan continued his report. Since our girl Diana is always in her lover's sight, I guess she found a guy at work. I did a little investigating, set up a couple of cameras, and voila. The driver, Sam, visits the young mother regularly. He's usually the one driving your husband around. Moreover, when Victor stays the night there, his spot in the mistress's bed isn't empty for long either. Does she really think she'll get away with this? Chloe gasped. The nerve. I didn't think Diana was that calculating. You underestimate her. She's going places, Ethan said. She's covered all her bases. If one father won't marry her, the other will. She's got something to cover her tracks with her rural family. Can you run a test with Sam as well? So we have evidence for that too? Chloe began to strategize. You understand. I need real aces, not just my word. All right, I'll get on it. Ethan nodded. And one more thing, Chloe hesitated. It's my husband's birthday in 2 weeks. I need to find out where and how it's being held. I'll need an invitation. And for you, a tuxedo and your equipment. I'll have it ready, the detective promised and left, taking the trash bag with the remnants of their meal. Chloe continued her act of being on death's door. She knew her husband would soon deliver the final blow, so she had to strike first. 3 days before Victor's big birthday bash, she woke him up in the middle of the night. "Honey, you need to open the door. Are you delirious again?" Victor tried to push her back into bed. "No, I feel terrible. I called an ambulance." "Open the door for the paramedics," Chloe insisted. As if on cue, the intercom buzzed. With a frustrated groan, Victor went to open it. 3 people in medical uniforms burst into the apartment with a stretcher. One of them, a tall man with cold eyes, asked, "Where is the patient?" "She's right here, but you came for nothing," Victor stammered. "It's just the flu. A doctor already saw her. Complications. Looks like pneumonia. Her oxygen saturation is low." The medical team efficiently examined the woman on the bed. "All right, we're taking her to the infectious disease isolation unit. Visitors are strictly prohibited. Get your wife's ID ready." "What if I don't consent to the hospitalization? Where are you even taking her?" Victor protested, feeling the ground slip from beneath him. "The patient gave her consent, so your opinion isn't required." The head of the team snapped. "Now, help us carry her to the vehicle." Victor confusedly held the doors open for his groaning wife. At the last second, he tried to ask, "Who do I call to check on her?" "Here, write down the cell number for the head of the infectious disease department." The medic quickly scribbled some numbers on a piece of paper. "Call between noon and 1 in the afternoon. If anything happens, we'll contact you." The ambulance sped away. Victor stared after it, dazed. His flu hoax had spiraled out of control. His wife really did seem to be dying. But mostly he felt lucky. If the doctors found those specific drugs in her blood instead of a virus, the questions would be aimed at him. Victor rushed to call his mother. An hour later, Chloe was sitting in the mobile home, sipping hot tea and laughing while eating pastries Ethan had bought at a 24-hour bakery. "You should have seen his face when I mentioned the ambulance," she laughed. "Now we can properly prepare for my dear Victor's birthday. By the way, how did you get an ambulance?" "Private detox clinic," Ethan smirked. "They were happy to give a quiet patient a ride for a fee." "And how was my performance as the doctor?" "Flawless. I never would have recognized you," she admitted. "Now we wait for Victor to start calling the hospital. It's under quarantine. All info is by phone. And I gave them a specific number." Ethan smiled. "He'll be calling this burner phone I have for these exact cases." "Great," Chloe smiled. "Now the plan is a hair appointment, a makeup artist, and a new dress. I am not missing this birthday for anything." Exactly at noon that day, Ethan's phone rang. He answered in a deep, grumbly voice. "Intensive care, listening. Is this the hospital? I want to check on my wife, Chloe Adams. She was brought in last night." A stunned Victor mumbled. "The husband, I take it?" Ethan sighed. "I don't have good news. The situation is grim. What were you doing treating her at home? Her lungs are severely damaged. She's on a ventilator and can't breathe on her own. If she makes it through the next day, you'll be a lucky man." "Oh, I see," Victor said, trying to hide his excitement. "Can I bring her anything?" "Sir, this is intensive care, not a delivery service," Ethan barked. "We'll call you if things take a turn for the worse. Don't distract the doctor." Victor hung up with a look of pure bliss. He was certain. In 1 or 2 days, his hated wife would leave this world forever. 2 days later, a grand celebration took place. Guests flocked to the best restaurant in the city, Chicago. Victor briefly explained his wife's absence as a slight malaise. He kept quiet about the ICU. Why ruin the party? Martha walked around the hall in an expensive, ill-fitting dress and a feathered hat. Victor smirked. His mother could never escape her country chic tastes. Soon, the guests took their seats. They whispered for a moment, then forgot about Chloe. The role of the evening's hostess was brilliantly played by Diana, who had managed to shed nearly all the weight she'd gained during the pregnancy. The company employees exchanged looks, But no one dared challenge the new favorite of the man who was practically the owner now. At the height of the evening, Victor stepped up to the microphone. He was slightly tipsy but still in control, delivering a long-winded speech. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, partners, and colleagues, today we celebrate my 30th birthday. I am grateful to everyone here. It's a shame Chloe couldn't be with us today, but she is with us in spirit. My wife is a literal angel, a woman of many virtues, and she gave me the greatest gift of all. She has transferred the management of the firm to me. This is a sign of very high trust. Why is that, honey? I'm right here. A woman in a blue dress stood up from a corner table and threw back the veil hiding her face. Continue. This is very interesting. Chloe? You? Victor choked. His face went blank. He stared at his wife, who looked nothing like a dying woman, but he forced himself to continue. Anyway, I've achieved a lot by 30. I'm running what is practically my own firm. I'm happily married and dreaming of an heir to continue the dynasty. And as my wife promised her father, the child will carry my late father-in-law's last name. May I say a few words? Chloe walked up to the stage and took the microphone. That's not the only surprise. Do you want to see something even more exciting? I know you've dreamed of an heir for a long time, and I have a themed surprise for you. Ethan? Ready? A voice answered from backstage. Play it for everyone. Attention to the screen, Chloe commanded cheerfully. Victor, this concerns you too. I'll provide the commentary. Here you are, meeting your secretary and her baby at the hospital. Passionate kiss. Do you love all your employees this much? This means nothing. Just a stupid collage. Victor tried to defend himself. Oh, of course, Chloe nodded. And this probably means nothing too. I present to you the financial records. My dear husband has been reaching into the company's pockets for a long time, so successfully that we were almost ruined. For example, here are contracts with unfulfilled obligations. That's all lies, Victor shouted. The company's money is mine too. I have a power of attorney. A worthless scrap of paper. Chloe brushed him off. I revoked my signing authority quite a while ago. And by the way, dear, what do you say to this? The screen flickered to videos of Victor dripping the medication into her tea and sneaking out of the house at night. Finally, the closing shot. A close-up of 2 DNA tests. One showed paternity confirmed. The other showed it denied. Guess which one is yours and which one belongs to Sam? The driver? Chloe smirked. Of course, you could technically keep raising someone else's kid. But I don't think Diana will want a pauper. She's an expensive woman, and you are now penniless, fired with a black mark on your record, and you'll get nothing in the divorce. Thanks to my farsighted father, we have a prenuptial agreement. Diana, this isn't true, is it? Victor stammered in shock. Did you lie to me? Blame your mother. The mistress spat. She was the one pushing everything. You're practically sterile, Victor. Zero chance of conceiving. So we had to do what we had to do. Sam is young and fit, unlike some people. It happened right away, for your information. What does it matter now? You're already listed as the father on the birth certificate. You tried to pass off someone else's child as mine. Victor lunged at her with his fists clenched. And you even dragged my mother into this. Oh, you naive calf. Diana burst out laughing. Did you really think a woman like me would fall for a gold digger like you? You're a nobody without your wife's money. Complete zero. But your mother, now she's a smart woman. She's the one who came up with the plan to get Chloe out of the family. You wouldn't have agreed to leave your meal ticket, but for a child, you were all in. The game was played perfectly, note for note. You know what? Don't pin this kid on me either. Sam, the driver, jumped up and rushed toward the exit. I haven't seen any DNA tests. I don't know what they say. Sam, what? Is this your baby? Exactly. Diana chased after him. What am I supposed to do with him? My family won't even let me back in without a husband. And I have no money. They'll say I shamed them, that I brought home a gift in a basket. I don't give a damn, the driver yelled, his face turning purple. Did you think about that when you were sleeping with everyone? You think I really needed a secretary? No. As long as this idiot was paying for you, it was fine. But I'm not putting a millstone around my neck. He stormed out of the restaurant. The other guests followed, realizing the evening was beyond ruined. Victor turned to his wife, who had suddenly decided not to die after all. There was such despair on his face that Chloe almost felt a chill. So, this is how you dump me? Throwing me out like an old shoe? Victor screamed. I just wanted to be the boss, the man of the house. Interesting method. She smirked. Get a mistress, have a baby, rob my firm, and almost kill your wife. Quite the perfect combination of actions. Am I supposed to kiss you for that? Get out of here and keep in mind, you're paying for this banquet out of your own pocket. All transfers from the company accounts have been cancelled. I don't have that kind of money. He turned pale. But the restaurant's security guards were already stepping toward the unlucky birthday boy. People weren't allowed to leave without paying there. Chloe, arm in arm with Ethan, left the establishment. They went to her house, where the locks had already been changed. Her husband's things had been sent to his mother's address. Ethan accompanied his client to the apartment. Well, that was fun, he said with a wink. By the way, your payment went through. It was a pleasure working with you. Wait, she stopped him. Listen, our company has never had its own internal security department, but it seems we desperately need one. What would you say if I offered you the position of chief of security? You can discuss the salary tomorrow with my manager, Robert Anderson. He's temporarily managing everything. All right, let's talk. Ethan smiled. I'm getting a bit tired of being a freelancer. I could use some stability, and I doubt I'd find a better boss anywhere else. Great. We'll see you tomorrow then, Chloe smiled. The next day, she began tackling the mountain of accumulated work. A full audit of the company took about 1 month, and the results showed they had more assets than expected. Specifically, the company owned the very clinic where Victor's mistress had given birth. Chloe smirked. She wasn't going to keep any bad memories, so she put the clinic up for sale that same day. 1 month later, she finalized the divorce. In court, Victor practically crawled at her feet, begging her to take him back. But Chloe remembered everything. This man hadn't just betrayed her. He had nearly killed her. She ignored all his pleas. The court and investigators were now handling her ex-husband's embezzlement. Chloe Adams, someone is here to see you. Nancy's voice sounded confused over the intercom. I don't even know how to say this. Nancy, what's going on? Chloe rested her hand on her growing belly. Inside, the baby kicked. Better see for yourself, the secretary said. Chloe stood up and went to the reception area. There she saw a startling sight. Her husband's former mistress, without her hair extensions, fake nails, or cosmetic fillers, looked like a very tired, broken woman. She was rocking a stroller with one hand. What? Did you decide to drop the baby off with me? Chloe asked coldly. No. Diana shook her head like a weary horse. Please, give me a job. Anything. Even a cleaning crew that scrubs the construction sites. I won't survive with a baby. Everyone has abandoned me. How is that possible? Chloe asked. Shouldn't you be receiving maternity benefits? I never filed for them. I quit quietly so no one would notice the pregnancy. Diana sobbed. I'll work hard, I promise. My sister will come from the village to watch the baby. Just take me in, I beg you. Interesting. And what about your lovers? Isn't anyone going to pay child support? Chloe inquired. Are they really that hopeless? Victor is suing me, demanding to be removed from the birth certificate. Her visitor sobbed. And Sam is even worse. He disappeared completely, changed his number, moved to another city. I can't find him. I see. Nancy, check if we have any openings in cleaning, Chloe asked. Yes, there's a night shift opening, the secretary replied, hiding a smile. Tell HR to process it. 2 months probation, Chloe grunted sternly. Thank you so much. The former mistress nearly fell to her knees. That's enough, Chloe stopped her. Just remember, there won't be a third chance. After selling the unnecessary assets, The company owner had extra funds, and Chloe decided it was time to fulfill her dream. She chose a plot of land owned by the firm and found an architect to design a modern veterinary center. Mark turned out to be very talented, but most importantly, he loved dogs and cats almost as much as she did. Now, Chloe started her mornings not with coffee or tea, but with a trip to the construction site. There, within the walls of the building growing before her eyes, the pregnant woman spent her days in the company of the architect. After hearing her story, he was silent for a long time, then simply shook her hand. By the eve of her due date, the clinic was already taking its first boarders. The animal shelter was bustling too. Chloe loved being there. She and Mark even had a favorite, an old, blind dog named Daisy. They walked her together several times a day. Don't people understand that you can't just abandon and betray? Mark waved his hands. Tell me, how could anyone throw away a sweetheart like this? I don't know, Chloe smiled. But when the baby is born, I'm taking this little one home. We'll go for slow walks with the stroller. Daisy deserves happiness too. Speaking of which, the architect asked, how are you going to manage alone? Is someone meeting you at the hospital? I haven't really thought about it, Chloe said, embarrassed. I'll ask the secretary to send a car. Are you out of your mind? Mark shook his head. And then what? Are you going to register the girl under your ex-husband's name? No, I'd prefer not to, but there are no other candidates, Chloe said. I'll likely have to follow the law. Listen, this might sound stupid and bold, Mark muttered, turning red, but you deserve happiness just as much as Daisy does. I checked, at this stage they can marry us tomorrow without any problems. If you're okay without a fancy ceremony, I'm asking you to marry me. Mark, you don't even know me, Chloe smiled. And you don't love me. It's noble, but it's not enough. That's where you're wrong. The architect shook his head. By the way, my parents are already prepared to welcome a granddaughter into the family. My dad married my mom when she was pregnant with someone else's child, and I have a wonderful family. You'll like them, and I'm sure they'll like you. And as for love, I won't say big words, you've surely heard them all before. I'll just say that we can be truly happy. And even if you say no now, I'll just come back and ask again. Mark, you're crazy. A happy Chloe smiled. And I guess I am too because I'm saying yes. Let's get married. I'm not joking. My mom has a friend at the clerk's office, Mark said. I'll call right now, and she'll organize everything. Chloe went to the hospital without even having time to update all her documents. She took Mark's last name, deciding not to follow her father's request exactly. She was sure her father would have understood. Soon, a beautiful, healthy baby girl was born. The stress her mother had endured during the pregnancy hadn't affected her development at all. The excited young father was in the room within half an hour, wiping the sweat from his tired wife's forehead and cradling little Kira in his arms. My mom is already knitting booties, and my dad went to get a stroller, he told Chloe. Both of them were nearly out of their minds with impatience. It seems I have the best in-laws in the world, she smiled. And a husband, too. I completely agree, Mark smiled back. Look at her. She's so tiny, but she looks at you like she's a grown-up. I'm amazed myself, Chloe replied, closing her eyes for a second, realizing she was boundlessly happy. A wave of love for her baby, her husband, and everyone around her washed over her. Just then, the stern voice of the midwife spoke up. Come on, Mom. No slacking off. Let's start feeding. Chloe reached out for her daughter and smiled happily. All of this was her life now, the real thing without the lies and the fakes.